15. Naku, kulang. Guys, so going back to uremia, ma'am, bakit ano ba to? Bakit merong acidosis? Children, one of the important functions of the kidneys, you go back again to the first page of the kidney function test chapter. Anong nilagay ko dyan, guys? One of the important functions of the kidneys, do not forget, is the balance of blood pH. In fact, there are two organs involved in the balance of blood pH. We have the lungs and the kidneys. The lungs are involved in maintaining the acid, whereas the kidneys is involved in maintaining the base. That acid is particularly partial carbon dioxide, and that base is the bicarbonate. So therefore, when you say base, it's all about maintaining the alkalinity of blood, and when you say acid, it's about maintaining the acidity of our in vivo blood. So therefore, when you mix together the acid and base, our exact blood pH and our optimum blood pH should be pH 7.4. Ang tanong, ma'am, paano po nagka-renal failure? Naku, kung sabang renal failure, wala na lahat ng functions ng organ na yun. And it includes the loss of pH balance. Remember that. And that results to what? Metabolic acidosis. Why is it that uremia, which is severe form of azotemia, is characterized also by take note, onset of anemia? Well, what is that? What is that hormone? Secreted in the kidneys. And that hormone is important for RBC production. Kapag may mga pasyente po na ayaw ng blood transfusion, yan ang pinapa-inject nila. Yes, ang daming sumagot, erythropoietin or the EPO, the erythropoietin. That hormone is secreted in the kidneys. And the function of that hormone is to promote RBC production. Nako, nagkaroon ng severe form of azotemia. That is already renal failure. Kaya pala nagkaroon naman ng anemia. Kaya kung meron kang kakilala, sana wala, na merong uremia or nagdadialysis, ano napapansin mo? There is also blood transfusion among patients undergoing dialysis. Why? Because that is loss of the kidney functions. Kaya nagdadialysis na sila, loss of the kidney functions. But there are some patients, they don't like to receive any other blood except their own blood. So anong request nila sa mga clinicians? Dok, mag-inject na lang ng erythropoietin. Huwag kalilimutan. What else? And Burr cells may signal the development of renal dysfunction. The presence of Burr cells, do not forget, that is a sign of a developing renal dysfunction. Children, ano ba si Burr cells? Echinocytes, elliptocytes. Naku. Tanda, naku, that's a very important information. Echinocyte or elliptocyte? Walang titingin ng book. Walang mag-google, guys, ha. Echino-ellipto. Excellent. It is echinocytes. Okay, those who answered echinocytes, madami-dami. That is definitely the Burr cells. Take note, ha. Sign of developing renal dysfunction. What are the tests for measuring tubular function? So this is the third and the last major renal function test. When you say tubular function, this time we're going to determine the ability of the renal tubules to concentrate urine. To measure the ability of the renal tubules to concentrate urine. What is the first? Well, actually, those who have text the review book, napansin mo ha, under tubular function test, there are two divisions under tubular function test. The first is the excretion test. The second is the concentration test. Between the two divisions, it is concentration test which is more important tubular function test. And anong sabihin ng concentration test? The ability of the renal tubules to concentrate urine. And what is the simplest kidney function test? Take note yung sinabi ko, simplest kidney function test, meaning to say, generally speaking, what is the simplest kidney function test? That you just have to instruct the patient to submit urine, and after that, Just get a urinometer or get a urine strip, and that urine strip has a so the specific gravity test. Remember that, guys, that particular classification. Ha? Take note kung saan naka-under si urine specific gravity test. The tubular function test, concentration test. Question, ma'am, paano malalaman ng medical technologist yung patient niya merong renal damage? If the result of the specific gravity test, USG, is fixed at 1.010. What do you mean by fixed? Children, the USG, if the intention of the USG is to measure the capability of the renal tubule, dapat it is 3 to 5 days consecutive testing. Araw-araw po. You're going to measure the urine specific gravity. And what is the sample? Ay, syempre, first morning urine. Eh, kasi concentration test yan. Imagine naman, first morning urine, yung specific gravity mo, 1.0 to 1.010 lang, or less than 1.010, or fixed at 1.010 for 3 to 5 days, hindi mo lang nagbago ang value. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Failure to concentrate urine. What else? And remember that the presence of protein in urine, that will affect specific gravity. Nakalagay dyan, specific gravity increases by 0.003 units per 1% changed in the concentration of protein in the urine sample. Take note. How about glucose? The presence of glucose in the urine sample will create specific gravity increase of 0.004. Every 1% change in the concentration of glucose in the urine sample. So sa protein, 0.003 increase. Pag si glucose naman, 0.004 increase. So ano ibig sabihin nun? Then osmolality is more reliable than USG. Children, osmolality is a tubular function test. What type of tubular function test? Concentration test. Remember that. That is a concentration test. So ano ibig sabihin to children? This is reliable because it is only affected by the number of solutes present and not affected by weight of the solute. Hindi katulad ng specific gravity, it is after the weight of the solute. Ito, by the concentration of the solute in the sample. So anong ibig sabihin nito, guys? We can use either serum or urine. Siyempre tatanungin mo ko, fasting serum with or without fasting? Because remember that organ function test requires immediate attention. Take note, it requires immediate attention. So here, what is the reference value of serum osmolality? 275 to 295 milliosmol per kilogram. And what is the osmolality of 24-hour urine? 300 to 900 milliosmol per kilogram. Okay, that is 300 to 900 milliosmol per kilogram. Huwag kalilimutan. That's so important. What else? Oops, children. Nakalagay dyan, 24-hour urine. Yung isa, first morning urine. And what is the sign of renal damage, especially if the urine is the sample? Well, the sign of renal damage is, of course, less than 300. That means failure to concentrate urine. Take note, 290 milliosmol per kilogram. What else? Then how about methodologies? How do we measure osmolality? Serum or urine osmolality? First is by using osmometry method. And that is direct method. And the name of the instrument is freezing point osmometer or vapor pressure osmometer. Ang tanong, ma'am, ano tong freezing point tsaka vapor pressure? Children, they are colligative properties. Freezing point and vapor pressure, do not forget, are colligative properties. What is the only test in the whole clinical chemistry, my goodness gracious, with colligative property test? Wala nang iba. Kidney test. What type of kidney test? Tubular function test. What type of tubular function test? Concentration test. Osmolality. Bakit direct method? Eh kasi kumuha ka ng serum o kaya ng urine. O pagkatapos i-measure mo directly using this freezing point osmometer, because that is the most commonly used method, the freezing point osmometry. You see, it's this one, itong naka-cursor, naka-cursor, akala mo kang pipette. That is part of the freezing point osmometer instrument. Ito, ginagamit mo to aspirate the sample. And then what happens next? Ay, babalik mo siya dito. You have to return it. You see, there is a hole over there. You have to insert this sample holder. Then, after a while, you will notice ilang minutes lang, mga 2 to 3, mga 3 to 5 minutes, may result ka nang mapapansin dito. Minsan nga, less than mga nasa 3 minutes lang, may result ka na dyan sa digital reader na yan. Bakit freezing? Kasi when you remove the sample holder, after measurement, you will notice that the tip of the pipe of the sample holder is actually with a frozen sample. Kaya freezing point osmometry. Why direct? You can either use serum, you can either use what? Urine, and measure it directly. Ma'am, wala po kaming osmometer. We have indirect method. But indirect method is mathematical computation. Take note, mathematical computation using only serum. Guys, serum lang ang nakalagay dyan, mathematical computation. And what is the formula? My gosh, you need sodium, you need glucose, you need BUN. Okay? Sodium, glucose, and BUN. Do not forget that. Oops, and what is the formula? 1.86 times sodium plus glucose in milligram per deciliter plus BUN in milligram per deciliter. Oops, divided by 18 for glucose, divided by 2.8 for BUN. In short, bakit anong nyo? Kung ma'am, tinatanong ba yun sa board exam? Naku, mahirap ako ang magsabi, no? Alam ko, nabasa mo na sa Facebook din yan, tsaka nabasa mo na rin sa YouTube yan, no? Sabi nga nila, di ba? Naku, they are endorsing the book of Madame Rodriguez. Guys, in other words, basahin mo maigi yung question. If the question is on indirect method, what is the only sample? Serum. And what are the parameters for computation of serum osmolality? Sodium, glucose, and urea. Bakit silang tatlo? Because they are major osmotic particles outside the cell. Urea is the most abundant NPN. Glucose is the most abundant carbohydrate in plasma. And sodium is the most abundant ion in plasma. And of the three markers for serum osmolality, sodium is the major osmotic particle outside the cell. Ma'am, di po pwede dito ang urine. Ay, syempre hindi kasi it's so challenging. Guys, paano mo mami-measure yung glucose sa urine? Unless yung pasyente mo may glucosuria. Paano kung wala siyang glucosuria? Ay, oo nga. That's why we use only what? Serum. That is in the absence of the osmometer. Ma'am, are you telling us that osmolality is a very significant kidney function test? Truly. In fact, ang mga doctors po natin, it's, di ba, lagi nila sinasabi, before they can actually declare renal failure, they should be able to complete and request and really determine all the results of the kidney function test. Hindi pwedeng BUN lang, hindi pwedeng CREA lang, hindi pwedeng uric acid lang. They should measure the GFR and they should also measure the tubular function. Huwag mong kalilimutan yan. Sodium, glucose, BUN are tubular function tests. Oh my goodness gracious, these are tubular function tests. I'm sure you will ask me, Mom, may glucose dyan, kailangan ba fasting? Uulitin ko sa'yo, organ function tests require immediate attention. Well, kung ang pasyente kaya mag-fasting, o hindi mag-fasting, FBS. Kung hindi, then we have random blood sugar. It's not a problem. Expected values. Concentrated urine, ay syempre dapat 1.025. Bakit? Ay syempre because this is concentration test. This is 24-hour urine. And the osmolality should be, I'm sorry, that is first morning urine. That is specific gravity. If the renal 1.025. At ano dapat ang kanyang children, yung kanyang 24-hour urine osmolality? Ay, syempre dapat normal, higher pa, 800. Chronic renal disease, fixed at 1.010. How about urine osmolality? Less than 290. Or I'm sorry, that is 290 and less. 290 and less. So pag normal ang urine at saka serum osmolality, ang ratio niyan 1:1. Next, pag glomerular disease, ay syempre, mataas ang BUN. Kasi glomerular disease. So greater than 1:1. Pag distal tubular disease, nako, less than 1:1. Pag sinabi nating distal tubular disease, ibig sabihin, there is severe polyuria. When you say distal tubular disease, it means there is severe polyuria. Do not forget that there is severe polyuria. What else? And guys, what is the perfect example of distal tubular disease? Anong perfect example ng distal tubular disease? Wherein there is severe polyuria. Anong example ng guys? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Diabetes insipidus, Justin Ann Amar. Okay, and Judith Bautista. That is diabetes insipidus. Excellent. Okay, that is DI, the diabetes insipidus. Okay, so therefore, yan ang example po ng distal tubular disease. There is severe polyuria, and the urine and serum osmolality is less than 1:1. So therefore, what are the 3 major divisions of kidney function test? The GFR test, the RBF test, and the TF. Do not forget the examples, each major division. Each major test. Do not forget the examples, okay? How about the terminologies? Ito ha, marami nagtanong, Ma'am, ano ba itong si osmolarity? Siya ba si osmolality? Kasi pagdating sa board exam, diyan ka mai-stress. Ano ba yung sabi ni Ma'am? Osmolality. Tapos nakalagay dito sa board, osmolarity, Lord. Osmolarity is the number of moles of solute in a liter of solution. Ha, liter po. Si osmolality, siya naman yung kilogram of water. Ang tanong, alin ba dyan ang commonly used nowadays? It is the osmolality, which is the preferred terminology. Since measurement of both osmolarity and osmolality are based on colligative properties, huwag mong kalilimutan yan, the freezing point and the vapor pressure, which are based on the number of particles dissolved in a given number of water molecules, then we use osmolality. Huwag mong kalilimutan yan. Anong pinagkaiba ni osmolarity kay osmolality para hindi na tayo mahihirapan? Take note of that, people. You keep that important notes para pagdating mo sa exam, relax ka. Okay? That is very important. The difference between the two, it is not in the book, guys. Okay? You have to copy such particular slide. Okay? What else? Tandaan na, si osmolality na po ang preferred term ngayon. That's why I use that as a measure of tubular function. What else? And how about renal disease? Ma'am, ano ba talaga to si renal disease? Sa una ha, renal disease, what are the routine analytes therefore in the measurement of the in the diagnosis of renal disease? What are the routine analytes currently? BUN, creatinine, and the 2 electrolytes, calcium and phosphate. Ma'am, bakit si calcium and phosphate? Ayan na po ang reason ha. Take note. Elevated BUN and creatinine with, take note, hypocalcemia and hyperphosphatemia. Ma'am, bakit ganyan? Isn't it calcium and phosphorus, guys? They are always inversely related. Tandaan mo, guys, inversely related yan. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Yung causes ng hypercalcemia, yun ang causes ng hypophosphatemia. Yung causes naman ng hypocalcemia, yun naman si hyperphosphatemia. Ay, kaya pala inverse dito, ma. Tama. Ano nakalagay dyan? Elevated BUN, elevated creatinine, decreased calcium, increased phosphorus, strongly suggest tubular failure. Do not forget that, guys. Tapos, ang specific gravity mo, fixed 1.010, tubular failure na naman yon. Tapos yung urine osmolality, less than 290 or exactly 290, tubular failure pa rin yon. And also the serum osmolality is less than 275, tubular failure pa rin yun, guys. Okay? Huwag kalimutan. Neither BUN or creatinine is produced in the kidneys. Sinabi ko na yan kanina. Yet, they are considered indicators of renal conditions. Okay? I mentioned that already. What else? How about new markers for acute kidney injury? Guys, wala ito sa book, ha? Take note of this. Copy this, guys. Important ito. What are the new markers for AKI? Those who do not have book, you copy this also, of course. First, we have the kidney injury molecule 1. Naku, baka may lumabas to sa exam. KIM1. It is actually a type 1 cell membrane glycoprotein, okay, containing immunoglobulin-like and mucin domains. What else? And the KIM1 mRNA levels increased more than any other known gene after kidney injury. Huwag mong kalilimutan. Ako, ma'am, yung ba yung sinasabi mong part ng molecular? Correct. Okay, that is part of the molecular, guys. Okay, take note of that. The KIM1 messenger RNA. What else? Oops. It is an early diagnostic indicator of kidney injury compared with BUN and creatinine. It is an early indicator of kidney injury compared with BUN and creatinine. Take note. Huwag mong kalilimutan si KIM1. Okay? How about, okay, take note. How about the NGAL or the neutrophil gelatinase associated lipocaline. Actually, dinidiscuss to sa UBF eh. Alam ko na-mention to sa UBF. Ma'am, bakit pati nasa clinical chem na? Because this is considered new marker for acute kidney injury. Also known as lipocaline 2. Also known as human neutrophil lipocaline or HNL. Remember, this is actually a protein initially identified bound to gelatinase. Ma'am, saan ba talaga galing to, ma'am? Si neutrophil gelatinase associated lipocaline. Alam po sasabihin mo, yes, I remember that, ma'am. It was actually mentioned in our UBF, but at that time, there was an outbreak in my community, COVID-19 outbreak, ma'am, in my community and nuclear family. Naku, kaya ma'am, hindi ko siya naintindihan. O, wag ka, relax ka na. This is synthesized during a narrow window of granulocyte maturation. Hindi naman kaduda-duda, neutrophil ang unang pangalan niya. That's why, nakalagay dyan, this is synthesized during a narrow window of granulocyte maturation in the bone marrow. Ma, parang tinuro sa amin sa UBF, ang sample urine. Tama. Urine and gall is best over serum and gall. Take note, a powerful early marker of AKI. Naku guys, basahin mo maigi yung question. O, uulitin ko po ulit. Yung mga nasa old curriculum na nakasit down sa Pioneer ngayon, Sir Ryan Moraleta and Ma'am Jo and Ma'am Edith, baka magtatanong, bakit nagbago na yung lecture ni Dean Rodriguez? Former Dean Rodriguez, sorry. Bakit nagbago na yung lecture ni Ma'am Rodriguez? Sinabi ko rin na paulit-ulit, pag umupo ka ngayong review na to in preparation for the August 2022 and beyond, marami pong additional information. Pinag-usapan na natin yan because we're talking about the new curriculum. What else? This is a biomarker of AKI after contrast-induced nephropathy. Take note of that, guys. That is so important. Okay, what else? Make sure you have a copy. Uulitin ko para sa iyo lang yan, ha? Hindi yan for posting sa international universe, ha? Take note. What else? And interleukin 18 or the IL-18 is another another new kidney test. Take note that the renal interleukin 18 messenger RNA levels. Ano naman ang itatanong mo? Ma'am, yung ba yung molecular biochemistry? Tama na naman. Significantly upregulated in the proximal tubule. In fact, increased concentration of the renal interleukin 18 messenger RNA is also found. This is actually found among patients with autoimmune nephritis. Tandaan mo yan, guys. Ang dami ko namang tatanda ang notes. Naku, simplified na to. This is already simplified. Ano pang tatandaan natin? Ma'am, parang nabasa ko na yan. Naku, excellent. Ma'am, parang katulad yan ni Engal, urine ang sample. Perfect. Because the urinary interleukin 18 that is elevated in acute kidney injury and delayed graft function. Graft, ibig sabihin, yung newly, how do you call it? Newly transplanted kidney or just transferred to another person, transplanted kidney. Take note. And increased urinary interleukin 8 is early marker of acute kidney injury. Urine na naman ang sample, dalawa na silang urine. What is next? Do we have a PCOT renal markers? Naku, meron. This one predict the risk of AKI, the risk, take note. Identify patients at high risk for developing at post-operative AKI. That is post-operative AKI. Okay, magkarugtong yan ha. Post-operative AKI children. So anong iisipin mo? Ma'am, meron na palang handy renal test. Ako, meron na. Yan na ngayon ang dinedevelop. Kaya nga, because of the COVID-19, mas lalong tumaas ang production ng mga point-of-care test. Oops, these are what? Urinary biomarkers that are expressed in renal tubular cells, such as the IGF-BP7 and the TIMP2. Ang tawag ko dyan, TIMP2. Ano yan? Tissue inhibitor of metalloproteinases. Oops, these are the two new point-of-care renal markers. Guys, are you learning? Nagkakaintindihan ba tayo mga kapatid sa paniniwala? That's why it's so important under kidney function to remember the classifications of the test. We have the test for GFR. Remember, meron akong pinakita sa yung other GFR tests. Do not forget that. Then the RBF. Pansinin mo ang RBF. Walang other RBF test. Wala. Silang tatlo pa rin. Malakas talaga. Talagang panalo pa rin yung tatlong routine test. Wala pa rin naa-add-on. OPS, and we have the tubular function. And we have POCT and other AKI markers. So therefore, meron pang isa. The fatty acid binding protein. Renal marker. What is this? This is particularly in the proximal convoluted and straight tubule of the kidney. Oops, ano na naman na nakalagay? Bakit walang color to? Bakit nakalimutan ko lagyan ng color? Urine sample again. Children, tanungin ko kayo, bakit parang napapansin natin yung mga new kidney markers? Urine ang sample. Can anyone explain? Ano na-reflect mo bakit urine ang, in fairness, these are urine renal markers? Pansinin mo guys, ito mga bago ha, urine renal markers. May sumagot, Mom, because they are tubular function tests. Oh, remember. Ito mga na-mention kasi yung bagong kidney markers na to, they are not yet classified as tubular function. Kasi hindi pa kumbaga, hindi pa 100% kina-classify na tubular function test. Hindi pa guys, hindi pa sila sinasama sa tubular function test. However, take note ha, pag tinanong ko sa board exam, which of the following are, take note ha, are new tubular, are possible tubular function test. O pwede mo sila tawaging possible, pero hindi pa sila 100% sinasama sa tubular function test. Marami pang studies na ginagawa. But as you can see, they may be classified. Okay, anong importante tatandaan mo dito? Urine ang sample nito madalas, hindi po serum. Take note, urine ang sample. Because, why? Because urine sample is non-invasive, easy to collect. You don't need test tube, you don't need needle, you don't need syringe. Do not forget that. Hindi kailangan natin yon. So in other words, ma'am, tatandaan namin ito kasi parang dati ang mga kidney markers sa chemistry, mostly blood ang samples, right? But the new kidney markers, urine sample. Kaya, ma'am, pwede ba namin i-consider sila na tubular test? Hindi pa masyado. Kasi hindi pa sila naka-classify na tubular function. Although it seems, kahit ako sasabihin ko, mukhang papunta to sa tubular function test. So if you will be asking the board, aside from USG, aside from osmolality, what are the other tubular function tests? Aside from para-aminohydrolase test, aside from phenolphthalein test, nasa book mo yan. What are the other tubular function tests? Ma'am, may nakita akong FABP. Pwede. Ma'am, meron po ako nakitang NGAL. Pwede. Kasi, pansinin mo, tubules ang pinag-uusapan dito. But, they are not yet, or take note, officially classified. But if that is the question in the board exam, wala tayong choice. Kundi sila ang piliin natin. Okay? This is another urine sample and very good marker for diabetic nephropathy. Immunoglobulin A nephropathy, my God. And contrast nephropathy, meaning binigyan ng pasyente ng dye contrast, naku, nasira yung kidneys. O eto ang marker natin, urinary L, FABP. Ma'am, ano ibig sabihin ng L? Liver type. In fairness, ang ibig sabihin ng L so far, ano ibig sabihin ng L so far, liver type FABP. Liver type fatty acid binding protein. Hindi naman hindi naman katakatakan tawagin mong liver type kasi these are these are very important information. I hope you are enjoying these new tests. Okay, let's move now to the second major organ function test. And what is that? The liver. Okay, so we're done with the kidney function test. Tandaan natin, children. Naka-classify po tayo. Huwag po nating kalilimutan yan. Next, ang tanong natin, ma'am, paano natin i-discuss si liver function test? Is it same with the kidney function test? That we started the kidney function test by saying the kidney functions. The most important is excretion. There is pH balance. There is electrolyte balance. There is, take note, endocrine function of the kidney. Huwag mo kakalimutan yan, guys. May endocrine function pa ang kidney. The synthesis of erythropoietin. Meron pang isang importanteng function sa kidney. Aside from pH balance, electrolyte balance. Take note. What else? Na-mention ko na first day, I think, or second day of our lecture, the only organ in the body that maintains blood volume. Diyos ko, wala na pong iba, kundi kidneys. Kaya di ba anong sabi ni Lord kay kidneys? Ikaw, kidneys, excretory organs ka, mag-iingat ka. Mag-excrete ka ng waste. Pero wag mo isasama yung blood. Kaya kapag yung urine natin, nagka-blood, na wala naman dapat blood doon, ano sabihin ni doctor agad? Stop kidney function test. Okay, remember that, people. So therefore, how do we discuss liver function test? Let's start with the function. But before we start with the functions, guys, can you please enumerate what are the routine liver function tests? What are the routine liver function test na natatandaan mong diniscuss sa'yo? AST, ALT, correct? Si SGOT, si SGPT, AST, ALT yon. What else? Puro yun ang sagot ninyo. What are the other routine, routine liver function test? Bilirubin, excellent. Alkaline phosphatase, excellent. So there's bilirubin, there's alkaline phosphatase, ALT, AST, there are 3 A's. Routine test A's in the liver? The ALT, the AST, and the alkaline phosphatase. Letter B, bilirubin. Oops, what is the last? Excellent, CT Aina Tumanding. Anong answer ni CT Aina Tumanding? Combine it with the answer of Judith Bautista. TPAG. Total protein, albumin, globulin, and please include AG ratio. Those are the 5 routine kidney function tests. ALT, AST, ALP. Tatlo na yon. B, bilirubin. What is the last? TPAG and AG ratio. Those are the 5 routine liver function tests universally questioned. We are going to discuss liver function tests based on function. Unlike kidney function tests, we discuss it based on tests. Ito based on function. And what is the most important function of the liver? Na sinabi ko na kahapon, meron tayong introduction kahapon. Of course, the synthetic function. Because liver is definitely the chief metabolic organ. Pag sinabi mong metabolic, dalawa yon. Anabolic or catabolic. Nasaan doon si liver? Pareho. But remember, this is the chief synthetic organ. Next question. Of the 5 liver function tests, routine tests, which of the 5 measures the capacity of the liver to synthesize? Again, which of the 5 measures the capacity of the liver to produce? Ano answer natin? Ay, syempre, TPAG and AG ratio. Because definitely proteins are produced in the liver. And ano pa tatandaan natin? Bakit si TPAG po ang synthetic function test? Because this protein is the number 1 synthetic product of the liver. Number 1, guys, synthetic product. Yan, si protein. Kaya nga si protein reported in gram per deciliter, not in milligram, gram, because proteins are truly abundant. Okay? And the TPAG test and AG ratio, guys, they are useful markers for quantitating the severity of hepatic dysfunction. Gusto mo malaman kung gaano kalala ang liver? TPAG and AG ratio. What are the methods now for measurement of total proteins? Take note of the heading, total proteins. Kjeldahl method is the reference method. And remember that the principle of Kjeldahl, measurement of total protein is based on the concentration of nitrogen. Because Kjeldahl method is based on the nitrogen content of proteins. Do not forget that. What else? And according to Kjeldahl, 1 gram of nitrogen is equivalent to 6.54 grams of proteins. 1 gram of nitrogen is equivalent to 6.54 grams of proteins. What else? And when you say total nitrogen, in total protein, that is around 15 to 16%, a maximum of 16%, okay? That is the total nitrogen in total protein. What is the reagent in Kjeldahl method? Sulfuric acid. What is the product of the reaction between sulfuric acid and the nitrogen in serum? Mag-iisip ka, Ma'am, yung serum natin may nitrogen? Ay, syempre, kasi yung serum mo may protein. Ano ba ang chemical components ng protein? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and what else? Sulfur. Hi. So what is the product of the reaction between sulfuric acid and nitrogen? Ammonia. Ammonia is the end product in Kjeldahl method. Ang tanong, si Kjeldahl method ba ang routine method in clinical chemistry? Siya bang ginagamit pong method to measure total protein? Siyempre, anong answer natin? Naku, ma'am, hindi, because so we don't use sulfuric acid, masisira yung mga machines. So what is the routine method? Biuret or the Biuret method. This is the routine method. This is most widely used and recommended by the International Federation of Clinical Chemistry. Kjeldahl is the reference, but this is the routine method. Take note. And, si Kjeldahl, ang kailangan niya, nitrogen. The nitrogen in protein. Ito naman, it requires the peptide bonds in proteins. At least 2 peptide bonds should be present in serum to measure the total protein. So, iisipin mo na naman, ma'am, ang serum may peptide bonds, matagal na. Paano nangyari yun, ma'am? Kasi yung serum mo may protein. Ay, oo nga. Ang serum, ang proteins pala mo connected by peptide bonds. Tama. That's why it says here, it requires at least 2 peptide bonds in the serum sample and alkaline reagent. Keldal use acidic reagent. Biuret method use alkaline reagent. The end product here is a violet colored compound. And since this is the routine method, the reference range is actually 6.5 to 8.3 gram per deciliter. Conversion factor to make it gram per liter, that is the SI unit, gram per liter, then it is times 10. 10 is the conversion factor. Okay, huwag kalilimutan. Then, what is the next method? We have electrophoresis. This is the third. This was then for total protein. And what is the next method to determine total proteins? The SPE. Naku guys, umukhang, naku, ma'am, meron bang electrophoresis sa board exam? Naku children, wala pang pandemic, may electrophoresis na. Lalo na ngayon. Because this is part of the molecular techniques. Okay, remember, take note in clinical chemistry, electrophoresis is an analytical method for serum hindi plasma. Ay, malalaman mo mamaya yan. Pero if the concern is to observe the bonds, so it says there SPE. What clonal spike of immunoglobulins. So, ma'am, naglalag po kayo. O sabi ko na nga ba children, di ba? Saan ako po pwesto? Okay. That's why I don't open my video. Kasi, ayan, pag in-open ko, ma-out ako sa Zoom. Nangyari na sa akin yan, guys. Nag-i-speak ako, speaker, nawala si madam, nawala yung speaker. So, I have to turn alam ko nami-miss nyo ang aking facial expression. Well, nakikita mo ang boses ko. So pag naririnig mo yung boses ko yan, na-imagine mo ang aking facial expression. The blurting of my big eyes, isn't it, children? And yung aking eyebrow na umaabot sa 10th floor. Naku, pag face-to-face ito, hindi na sasagot yung question. Sinabi ko, uwi na ako, hindi na ako babalik. Going back. So, anong clinical significance ng SPE? To identify the monoclonal spike of immunoglobulins. Next, oops, wag ka magugulat. Baka yung test paper mo, may picture. Promise? I promise. Diyos ko, matagal ko na sinasabi, darating tayo sa panahon na yan. Wag, anong tinuro ko sa'yo at tinuro sa'yo ng lahat ng professors mo ng clinical chemistry? Kapag nakakita ka po ng electrophoretic pattern, the first thing that you need to check is the number of separated bonds. How would you know that this is normal SPE? There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separated bonds. Pag 5 yan, ano masasabi mo? Nako, this is normal SPE. O, hindi pa confirm yan. What is the confirmation? You have to observe the height of each or the peak of each band. Ano napansin mo? Yung normal SPE, the alpha-1 band, the alpha-1 globulin band, the alpha-2 globulin band, the beta-globulin band, the gamma-globulin band, anong nakita mo? They almost have the same height. Ay, oo nga. Ano po, children? Pero si albumin, it has the highest peak. Ay, correct. Bakit siya ang highest peak? Because peak or height after electrophoresis represents the concentration. It means it is the most abundant protein in serum. So, ilan dapat ang bands? 5. Ano dapat ang height para malaman mo talagang normal SPE? Almost same yung globulins. There are 4. Pero yung albumin, the highest peak. Ops, alam ko tatanungin mo to. Mom, are you saying there are 4 major globulins? Ay, matagal na. The alpha-1 globulin group, the alpha-2 globulin group, the beta-globulin group, and the gamma globulins. So, let us define the separated bands. Ay, syempre, fastest si albumin, wala nang kaduda-duda yan. That is the first band. And the second fastest band is the alpha-1 globulin band. And what are the major proteins in the alpha-1 globulin band? The alpha-1 antitrypsin, the AAG, and the TBG. O, pare-pareho ba sila ng concentrations? Nako guys, may I ask you, what is that protein considered most abundant in the alpha-1 globulin band? Sabi ko pa sa iyo kahapon, the absence of that protein in the alpha-1 globulin band will give you all flat peak. Almost flat band. Halos hindi mo na makita yung peak ng electrophoresis pag alpha-1 globulin because of the absence of that protein. What is that? Walang mabubuklat ng buka. What is the answer? The most abundant protein in the alpha-1 globulin band. Oh my goodness gracious. Tapos na yung 5 seconds. The alpha-1 antitrypsin. The alpha-1 antitrypsin, do not forget, is 90% of the total protein present in the alpha-1 globulin band. Take note, 90%. Huwag kalilimutan. What else? And how about the alpha-2 globulin band? For the alpha-2 globulin band, remember that they almost have equal concentration. The haptoglobin, the ceruloplasmin, and the alpha-2 macroglobulin. The beta-globulin band, the most abundant is transferrin. That is also 90% of that peak. So pag nawala yung transferrin, flat na naman si beta-globulin kasi 90% yan. Then we have complement and the hemopexin. Those who have the review book, ang mini-mention ko lang guys, yung importanteng protein, each band. Okay? And the lowest band, the heaviest band, that is the fifth because these are the gamma globulins. Specifically the immunoglobulins and CRP. Take note, the immunoglobulins and the CRP. Ma'am, we need to memorize the separated bands. Noong pre-pandemic, kasama yan sa board exam. Nitong nag-pandemic, na-mention pa rin multiple choices. So, talagang tatandaan natin. Kaya nung college, tinuro sa yan. Binigyan ang situation sa board exam. Sabi sa'yo, after SPE, anong SPE? Serum protein electrophoresis. Sabi sa'yo, after SPE or serum protein electrophoresis, tandaan mo guys, ito ang normal ha. No? Lalagay natin sa mind natin yan, kayang-kaya yan. Ito daw ang naging result yun nasa baba. After SPE, this is the result of the separated bands. Okay? Anong una mong gagawin ulit? Para malaman mo agad kung anong problema nitong electrophoretic pattern na to, you have to count the number of bands. Question, kompleto bang 5? Tignan natin. 1, o meron. Albumin, present. Alpha-1 globulin, wala. Alpha-2, beta, gamma, present. In short, how many are the separated bands? 4. Do we have a missing band or do we have a fusion? Ano sa tingin mo reason ba't nawala yung alpha-1 globulin band? Missing or fusion? What is our answer? Definitely, it is a what? It is a missing band. Jerome Agawin. Ang tanong, anong nawala sa alpha-1 globulin band na causing flat band? Kasi instead of having a peak, naging flat. Well, this is perfect example of what? AAT deficiency. Correct, Kristen Brinas. That is AAT deficiency. And the 4 ladies, okay, that is AAT deficiency. Ma'am, ganyan palang itsura niyan. Correct. At tandaan niyo, children, that AAT deficiency or markedly decreased AAT, that is actually seen in pulmonary emphysema and juvenile hepatic cirrhosis. Next, ito naman ang tinanong sa iyo sa exam. Halimbawa, yan ang ipakita sa iyo illustration or it is not an illustration but a question. Sabi sa iyo, after SPE, there are 4 bands. Sabi mo agad, ano ba yun? AAT deficiency ba yun or iba? Bakit naging 4 bands? Bilangin nga natin ulit. There is albumin, check. Alpha 1, check. Alpha 2, check. Beta, naku, mahirap isipin. Gamma, naku, mahirap na naman isipin. Bakit? Because you see, there was a fusion between beta and gamma region. There was a fusion between beta and gamma region. So, ilan lang ang lumabas sa electrophoretic bands? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Ma'am, bakit ang haba ng N? Kasi guys, yung red, yan yung result ng electrophoretic pattern. Yung nakikita mong black tracing, black, that is the normal SPA. Yung nakikita mong red, that is the result of the electrophoresis. Mom, so there was a fusion between beta and gamma region. Yes, we call that beta-gamma bridging. Excellent. Richmond, Luis Estolas. Ang tanong, saan ba merong beta-gamma bridging? What disease will give you the beta-gamma bridging? Excellent. Again, ako first to answer, Richmond Estolas. Ako sigurado, Richmond Estolas. Alam mo kung face ito, nakatingin siya, sasabihin sa'yo, ikaw na ang may prepare na speech. And everybody who answered Sir Jose's, madami-dami. Whoops, that is definitely hepatic cirrhosis. Because beta-gamma bridging or fusion of the beta and gamma region. Ayan guys, so pansinin mo, ito ang beta. Look at my cursor. Ito ang beta, ito ang gamma. Ay, nagsama nga sila, ma'am. O, di ba? Wala ka nang makitang demarcation na. Wala ka nang nakitang ganyan. O, then that is fusion. And next question. Which protein is the cause of the fusion of beta and gamma region? How will you answer that question? Siyempre, isipin mo, oh, walang titingin sa book, walang titingin sa Google search. Ano ba proteins ang nasa beta? Ano ba proteins ang nasa gamma? Yun ang choices mo. Yung dalawa lang na yun. Alin kaya sa proteins na nasa beta at saka proteins na nasa gamma ang nag-cause ng beta-gamma bridging? Transferrin, complement, hemopexin, immunoglobulin, or CRP? Kung hindi tayo nagkita ngayon, my goodness gracious, what is your answer? Well, sabi ni Sita ay na tumanding, ma'am, my answer is immunoglobulin. And not just immunoglobulin. She answered immunoglobulin A. Excellent. That is the correct answer. Miss Tumanding. That is the answer, guys. The immunoglobulin A. Huwag kakalimutan. Ma'am, ibig mo sabihin si immunoglobulin A increase in hepatic cirrhosis. Matagal na guys, kaya siya nag-cause ng fusion of beta and gamma region. Remember, there is a small amount of immunoglobulin A in beta region. Yan ang immunoglobulin na mayroong small amount sa beta region. At syempre, saan ba ang bahay ng immunoglobulins? Ay sa gamma region. You mean, ma'am, immunoglobulin A is the only immunoglobulin with little concentration in the beta-gamma region. Tumpak na tumpak. Ako, wag mong kalilimutan sa board exam yan. Guys, panalo yan. So, therefore, nag-e-enjoy ba kayo sa lecture ko? Parang ako lang nag-e-enjoy dito nang walang video. Are you learning? Did you learn something new? I hope you are enjoying, my dear students. Salamat. Naku, kung face-to-face ito, masaya to. Huwag kayong maglala. Ma, bakit hindi ka nag-face-to-face? Ikaw lang po hindi nag-face-to-face kasi Dr. Yolo. Well, it is according to our age. Alam niyo, guys. Ma'am, senior taon pa yun, ha? So therefore, my son told me, Mommy, you should take a rest na. You should not be working so hard. Alam nyo guys, ayaw nga ng anak ko itong pinagagagawa ko ngayong gabi na to eh. But sabi ko kaya nga sabi niya sa akin, Mommy, you are always and always with your students. Sabi ko naman sa kanya, but my heart is always with you. Kasi daw all his life since birth, I'm always busy. May nag-message dito, you've been busy lately. Yes, I am busy always, Mr. Agawin. Not just lately. Any time of the day. So going back Kaya parati ako nagpapasalamat kay Lord pag nakakarating ako dito sa Pioneer and in any other review centers. Basta nakapasok na ako sa room, masayang-masaya na ako kasi sabi ko, Lord, thank you for the opportunity to be with the students. The future of the Philippines. Nakapag-baccalaureate. Yes, I attended the baccalaureate. Yes, Rich one, I attended the baccalaureate mass. Okay, nakita nila ako doon. So, going back. Super mega busy, okay? So, going back, children. Ma'am, ibig mo sabihin si IgA, that is the only immunoglobulin with also small concentration in the beta region. Naman, that's why it can cause beta-gamma bridging, especially when it is increased in hepatic cirrhosis. Take note. So, therefore, ilan po ang abnormal bands sa hepatic cirrhosis? Here, not the juvenile, the hepatic cirrhosis full blast. Oops, bilangin natin ang abnormal bands. Si Ma'am, talaga palang sa hepatic cirrhosis may hypoalbuminemia. Ay, matagal na. And take note in the board exam, you can actually observe the hypoalbuminemia in SPE. Kasi you see, this is the original peak of albumin. It turns lower simply because in cirrhosis, there is truly hypoalbuminemia in hepatic cirrhosis. What else? Okay, then a little bit lower, but there is another abnormal band, the beta, and there's another abnormal band. What is that? Gamma. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 abnormal bands. How do we call that? Polyclonal gammopathy. Yan ang nababasa mo sa book, guys. The polyclonal gammopathy is seen in hepatic cirrhosis. It is seen in hepatic cirrhosis. Take note. Next, hindi pa tayo natapos. Sabi sa board exam, after SPE, o parati mong isipin, dapat ganyan ang makita mong picture sa board exam. Ganyan, ha? Even if it is a theoretical question, pag sinabing after SPE, there should be 4 bands. There should be 5 bands. 4 for globulins, almost same peak, and there is 1 tall band for albumin. Nako, ito ang sabi sa exam. Well, there are 5 separated bands. So sabi mo, check. Let us observe the appearance of the band. You have albumin, alpha 1, alpha 2, beta, gamma. Complete 5 separated bands. How about the peak? Oh, the gamma region is higher than albumin. How do we call this electrophoretic pattern? Gamma spike. We call this the gamma spike electrophoretic pattern. Why? Because you see, the gamma region is higher than albumin. Look at the normal SPE. Ay, oo nga. Ang igsi lang, ma'am, ng gamma region. Dito, higher than albumin. So how do we call this electrophoretic pattern? Gamma spike. Question, what is that condition, clinical condition, associated with the gamma spike? Oh, what is the answer of the 4 ladies and so many other students? Multiple myeloma. Excellent. Multiple myeloma. Ready na sa board exam. This is multiple myeloma. Next question. Which protein is the cause of multiple myeloma? Ay, syempre, dalawa lang ang choices mo. Si CRP o si immunoglobulin. Bakit sila dalawa lang? Because these are the major proteins in the gamma region. What is the answer? Nako, Naomi Pompa said, Ma'am, it is the immunoglobulin. And not only immunoglobulin, she answered immunoglobulin G. Excellent. That is the cause of the gamma spike. And Lena Ripolye also answered immunoglobulin G. And also Justin Ann Amar and Kristen Brinas, immunoglobulin G. Excellent. That is the cause of gamma spike. And that is seen in multiple myeloma. Therefore, ilan lang po ang abnormal band sa electrophoretic pattern na to? Anong napansin mo? Ma'am, si albumin lower than gamma. Correct. True or false? In multiple myeloma, there is hypoalbuminemia. In multiple myeloma, there is hypoalbuminemia. True or false? True, isiping maigi. Or false? What is the answer? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oops, what is the answer? False. Because always remember, if the case of the patient is only multiple myeloma, that is the only case. What is the expected concentration of albumin? Normal. Take note of that. The expected concentration of albumin in multiple myeloma is actually normal. Princess Mata said false. That is correct. So ang tanong, ma'am, ilan ang abnormal band sa multiple myeloma SPE? Isa. What is that band? Gamma. What is the appearance of the gamma? Gamma spike. What is the protein causing gamma spike? IgG. What is the clinical condition? Multiple myeloma. So how do you call that electrophoretic pattern where only one band is abnormal, just like in multiple myeloma? Monoclonal gammopathy. That is the monoclonal gammopathy. Ma'am, saan nga yung polyclonal gammopathy? That is seen in hepatic cirrhosis. Why is it in hepatic cirrhosis? There is polyclonal gammopathy because there are 3 abnormal bands: the albumin, the beta, and the gamma. Huwag mong kalilimutan yan. Albumin, page 117, the plasma concentration is inversely proportional to the severity of the liver disease. Bakit ba nakalimutan ko yung i-underline yung severity? Those with books, can you please underline the word severity? That is so important. That is a qualifier. Okay? Ano ibig sabihin nun? Nako, ano bang gusto malaman ng clinicians when they request TPAG at yung pasyente po nila ay talagang known with liver disease? Anong gusto makita ng doctor sa result natin? Hyperalbuminemia or hypoalbuminemia? If that is a known severe liver disease, then it should be what? Hypoalbuminemia, because liver, remember, is the organ responsible for the production of proteins. And albumin is the most abundant synthetic product of the liver. That is the reason why a decreasing plasma albumin is always sign of what? A severe liver disease. Next question. Ma'am, pag ang pasyente ba may severe liver disease such as hepatic cirrhosis, agad-agad babagsak ang plasma albumin? Naku, sinabi ko na sa kahapon yan. Remember that if that is cirrhosis, that is gradual hypoalbuminemia. Plasma levels decline when severe hepatocellular disease lasts more than 3 weeks. Kaya pala sinabi mo kahapon, ma'am, pag nephrosis, abrupt hypoalbuminemia. But if it is cirrhosis, gradual hypoalbuminemia. Kasi yung second bullet po ang reason. What else? So therefore, ano bang importance, ma'am, ng measurement ng plasma albumin? Ay, syempre, that is the most important liver function test because that is part of the TPAG, the synthetic function. These are the methods for measurement of serum albumin. We have the bronchosol green, the bronchosol purple, the HABA, the MO, or the methyl orange. Among the 4, the routine test universally, yung mismo procedure na pinag-aralan mo nung 3rd year kasi 4th year ka, what is that? Bronchosol green or BCG is the routine method. But take note, the bronchosol purple is a analytically sensitive method. What else? BCG is really affected by increased concentrations of therapeutic drugs, specifically penicillin. But the BCG and the BCP are not significantly affected by hemolyzed samples. Si HABA, yan talaga, hindi lang hemolyzed, pati ecteric sample. No, it is influenced, kaya hindi siya commonly used now. Automation, take note, prefer BCG or BCP. Take note. What else? And BCG and BCP is also free from ecteric interferences. Hindi lang hemolyzed, pati, ma'am, you mean albumin is not affected by hemolyzed sample? It is affected. albumin concentration is affected by hemolyzed sample. However, it will be reduced if you use the BCG and the BCP. And remember, both methods free from ecteric interferences. Reference values 3.5 to 5.0 gram per deciliter using the BCG, and the conversion factor to make it gram per liter, it is times 10. Okay, gram per liter, it is times 10. That is the conversion factor. What else? Ano ngayon ang clinical significance ng serum albumin test? Is it the rise of albumin in serum or is it the decline? Remember, this is a synthetic function test. Liver failure is failure to synthesize. So therefore, the clinical significance of the serum albumin measurement is never the hyper. It is always the hypo. Siyempre, titignan mo yung book mo. Ay, kaya pala nakalagay dito, ma'am, the causes of hyperalbuminemia are really not clinically significant. Anong nakalagay dyan? Number 1 cause ng hyperalbuminemia, severe dehydration. Hindi ka lang uminom ng water. Tataas yung plasma albumin mo. Why? Because it is a major analyte in plasma. Affected by water hydration. Second, affected by hydration. Second, artifactual hyperalbuminemia. What is artifactual hyperalbuminemia? False increase due to prolonged tourniquet application. Again, false increase due to prolonged tourniquet application. So ano ang lagi mong tatandaan natin, lagi natin tatandaan, children? Tinuro yun sila pa ulit-ulit ng third year, fourth year. It is the rise, it is the fall that matters and not the rise in plasma albumin. Because hypoalbuminemia denotes a disease process. Reduced synthesis, classic example, hepatic cirrhosis. Cirrhosis is always a classic example of severe liver disease. Failure of the liver to synthesize. Next, increased urinary loss. What is that? Nephrosis. Mom, are you saying albumin is also part of the kidney function test? Never. Albumin or serum albumin measurement is never part of the kidney function test. Guys, the main function of the kidney is to eliminate the waste. Albumin is never a waste product. It is an essential substance inside the body. So therefore, it's not a kidney function test. However, kidney dysfunction influence greatly the concentration of plasma albumin. That's why nephrosis is hypoalbuminemia. Increased metabolism is seen in malignancy, seen in severely burned patient. You can also experience hypoalbuminemia. What else? Ma'am, ano ba ang cirrhosis of the liver? There are 2 cardinal features according to McPherson and Pincus. There are 2 cardinal features of cirrhosis. There is fibrosis and presence of nodules. Ay, kaya pala mo para may mga dots. Yes. Fibrosis prevents the regeneration of liver tissue. Take note. Preventing regeneration of liver tissue wherever this has occurred. Nodules of regenerating liver tissue, the only source of any kind of hepatocytic function. Nodules of the regenerating liver tissue, the only source of any kind of hepatocytic function. Remember, liver has the capacity to regenerate. Kaya guys, kung iisipin natin, God really made a perfect human being. Imagine, pag na-damage yung liver mo, the chief metabolic organ, it has the capacity to regenerate. Take note. Pinag-aralan mo yan, I am sure, when you were in the anatomy and when you were in CC2, ako, may quiz ka pa dyan. How will you differentiate the hepatocyte from the reticuloendothelial system? Take note. That's why we call this review. What else? Ang next question, Ma'am, bakit meron ako nabasang combination of liver and kidney disease? Ang tawag natin dyan, hepatorenal syndrome. Severe liver failure can also cause hepatorenal syndrome. Take note, ano ibig sabihin ng hepatorenal syndrome? Renal dysfunction secondary to hepatic failure. Renal dysfunction secondary to hepatic failure. Ma'am, guys, sinong nauna? Renal or hepatic failure? When you say renal dysfunction secondary to hepatic failure, so which is first? Renal or hepatic failure? Minsan sa board exam, nalilito tayo dyan. Ano ba yung secondary to? Pag sinabi natin renal dysfunction, secondary. So anong first dysfunction? Excellent. That is hepatic. Okay, very good. Those who answered hepatic, ang dami. First was Richmond Lewis Estolas. Okay, take note ha. That is hepatic dysfunction first, followed by renal dysfunction. Makatanungin ka sa board exam, which of the following statement is correct? That there is hepatorenal syndrome. Ay, meron. Next question. Ma'am, paano ba mini-measure si globulin? True or false? We have a reagent, a chemical reagent that can directly measure the total globulin in serum, plasma, or whole blood. True or false? Again, there is a reagent that can directly measure the total globulin concentration in serum, in plasma, or in whole blood. Is it true or is it false? Ikaw ang tinatanong ko, guys. Very important yan. CT ay na tumanding. Excellent. False. Because we do not have that reagent. And Fernandez, Kreisel, John, JD. False. Excellent. Ma'am, ibig sabihin, kung ma'am, graduate na ako, akala ko meron tayong reagent. Liquid or dry reagent, ma'am, that can directly measure the total globulin. O baka may nagtataka sa akin, bakit total globulin? Di ba total protein? Children, ilan po ang major globulins sa blood mo at saka sa blood ko? How many major globulins do we have in our normal blood and normal plasma and normal serum? Ilan pong major globulins? Nako, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ma'am, ilan po bang major globulins? 4. 4. Balbiran, Blanica. Pahirap ng pahirap ang mga pangalan nyo, guys. Nahihirapan ako sa Miss Balbiran, Blanica. There are actually 4 major globulins. And what are the 4 major globulins? These are the alpha-1 globulins, the alpha-2 globulins, the beta globulins, and the gamma globulins. Hindi ba nakita mo siya sa electrophoretic pattern? Huwag mong kalilimutan. Ay, oo nga, may alpha-1, may alpha-2, may beta, may gamma globulins. Ang tanong, do we have a specific reagent, chemical or dry reagent that can directly measure the total globulin concentrations? Ay wala po, mga kapatid, sa paniniwala. So how do we get the concentration of globulin? Mom, di ba TPAG? Saan galing yung G? Total protein minus albumin is equivalent to globulin. Guys, all the chemistry analyzers in the universe, naka-program na po yung formula na yan. Naka-incorporate na yan. Do we have a reagent for total protein? Biorep. Do we have a reagent for albumin? BCG. Do we have a reagent for globulin? None. Ay, ganun pala, ma'am. Kaya yung analyzer, chemistry, naka-program na yan. That is the reference limit. And how do we achieve the albumin-globulin ratio? Napakadali lang nito, children. Whatever is the concentration of albumin divided by globulin, that is the AG ratio. Ma'am, nabasa ko sa mga books, may inverted AG ratio. Sinabi rin niya ni McPherson and Pincus and the original John Bernard Henry book. I mean, the author John Bernard Henry. Ay, meron talaga. May inverted AG. What is inverted AG? If the concentration of albumin, serum albumin, is higher than the serum globulin, that is abnormal. Kasi guys, mas marami kang albumin sa blood. Kaya anong marirealize mo? My goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Ma'am, ngayon ko lang nalaman, there are 4 major globulins. Guys, pag ito total mo ang globulins, yung globulins na nasa blood natin, ito total mo yan, more than 20 yan. More than yan, baka meron pang ibang hindi pa tayo kilala. Ngayon pa lang di-discover children. Ang tanong, ma'am, there are more than 20 globulin species? Yes. And only one albumin? Yes. But when you put all together and add all together the total globulins, the concentration is lower than albumin. Naman. That's why inverted AG ratio is abnormal. Because if the albumin concentration is less than globulin, that is cirrhosis. Children, what is that globulin? That prolonged cirrhosis and persistent cirrhosis will result to higher globulin. What is that globulin? And lower albumin. Naku, nakita mo yan sa electrophoretic pattern. What is a globulin with higher concentration than albumin in cirrhosis? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. IgA, Christine Briñas, and Ferdinand in fairness, Kaizel John JD. Excellent. The IgA is higher than albumin. Lalo na pag hindi na-repair ang liver. Ako talagang bababa yung albumin niya. Which globulin is higher than albumin in myeloma? My goodness gracious. The gamma spike. What is that? Nakita mo mas mataas yung gamma kaysa doon sa albumin? What is that globulin? That is the IgG. Excellent. And what is that globulin? Higher than albumin in Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia. That is IgM. Maria Crisma and Richmond Luis Estolas. Excellent. Kaya may inverted AG ratio. Ano pa ang dapat nating tandaan, children? Nakalimutan ko ilagay yung picture dito. Actually, na-delete ko yun. Hindi ko nakalimutan, na-delete ko na naman. Children, tinanong ka sa exam, ha? If after SPE, there are 6 separated bands, oh, naku, naging 6 daw. There is a band before albumin. Anong iisipin natin doon? Ma'am, pre-albumin, ay naku, hindi yan pre-albumin. That is bisalbuminemia. Ibig sabihin, there are 2 albumin bands. Instead of only 1 albumin band, there are 2 albumin bands. How do we call that? Bisalbuminemia. Question, what condition will give you bisalbuminemia? What is the answer? Increase therapeutic drug and serum will cause and will create bisalbuminemia. What is that drug, therapeutic drug, that if it is increased in plasma and it is increased in serum and you use that serum for SPA, ay magugulat ka. 2 ang albumin bands. Miss Kimberly Bote answered penicillin. Excellent. Penicillin, increased concentration of penicillin in serum. You use that same serum in electrophoresis, that is bisalbuminemia. Bakit hindi po pwede ang plasma pag protein electrophoresis? Because there is a protein which is always present in plasma and always absent in serum. And if you use plasma, that protein, which is always present in plasma and always absent in serum, creates beta-gamma bridging. Normally creates beta-gamma bridging. Even if that plasma came from a healthy individual, the presence of that protein alone in plasma really creates beta-gamma bridging. What is that protein? Only present in plasma, always absent in serum. 5, 4, fibrinogen, Richmond Luis Estolas, and Miss Balbiran Ani ka na lang. Baka magkamali ako ng pronunciation sa first two words. Okay, two letters. And ani ka. Correct. That is fibrinogen. Kaya anong marirealize mo? Kaya pala hindi pwede ang plasma. Kasi it normally creates beta-gamma bridging. Yes, unlike serum, if you use serum and there is beta-gamma bridging, anong isipin ng doctor? Naku, talagang mataas ang IgA nito. Talagang hepatic cirrhosis. Remember that. So therefore, children, going back to the clinical significance of SPE, bakit tayo may serum protein electrophoresis? Ano nga yung sinabi kong reason kanina, children? What is the significance of SPE? To identify the monoclonal spike of immunoglobulins. Take note of that. To identify the monoclonal spike of immunoglobulins. Therefore, SPE is a confirmatory method for which condition? Is it pulmonary emphysema? Is it multiple myeloma? Or is it hepatic cirrhosis? Kasi ang sabi, the clinical significance of SPE is to observe the monoclonal spike of immunoglobulin. So what is the answer? Then, SPE is very important for the diagnosis of multiple myeloma. Oh my gosh. Sabi nila, hindi ako nagsabi ha. Naku, discuss ni Ma'am Rodriguez dun sa electrophoresis, yung multiple myeloma, 2 beses tinanong sa exam. Na two questions. Naku, napaka-precious nung 2 questions na yon. That is multiple myeloma. So SPE is the confirmatory method, guys, for multiple myeloma. That is confirmatory method in multiple myeloma. Take note. Copy this, please. This is actually found in Bishop. Nakalimutan ko lang kung ano yung page. No? Galing kay Bishop to. 7th edition. Maganda yung, in fairness, maganda tong summary na to. Madaling intindihan. Ito yung summary ng discussion natin, guys. So in other words, Ma'am, bakit si cirrhosis? O tignan mo first row. First row, first column. Ma'am, cirrhosis, hepatitis, obstructive jaundice. Correct. Alam yung normal, hepatitis and obstructive jaundice. Ano yung almost always decreased total protein? Cirrhosis. Why? Because, remember, ang albumin po ay severely decreased in cirrhosis. That's why, if it is decreased, that will affect the concentration of total protein. In hepatitis and obstructive jaundice, the albumin concentration is not that low compared to cirrhosis. In fact, sometimes it is just slight increase. Kaya mapapansin mo, normal ang total protein. That increased globulin is in cirrhosis is actually more on the IgA. Ops, napansin mo guys, pansinin mo lahat ng blue. Ay, oo nga. Pag-decrease si albumin, nadadamay si total protein. Why again? Because albumin is the most abundant protein. Next, ma'am, sa multiple myeloma, bakit increase ang total protein? Normal naman ang albumin, ma'am. Well, because the gamma spike is higher than albumin. So when you add these two, that is really increased total protein. Huwag kalimutan. Let's go to the second and third function of the liver. What is the second and third function of the liver? The capacity of the liver to conjugate and the capacity of the liver to excrete. Ladies and gentlemen, alam nating lahat, what is the marker that will measure the capacity of the liver to conjugate at the same time? The capacity of the liver to excrete, that is none other than bilirubin. Okay, bilirubin, do not forget that. Excellent, Justin and Amar. Bilirubin. Oops, I'm a very specific professor. Which form of bilirubin is the only marker for conjugation? I will not give any choices. Which form of bilirubin is the only marker for conjugation? B1. Excellent. Those who answered B1, the first was Judith Bautista, followed by Raymark Magleo. The answer is B1, including Justin and Amar. That is the only marker for conjugation. And what is the marker for the capacity of the liver to excrete? Oh, be careful with the word excretion. Mom, ibig mo sabihin si liver, excretory organ. Actually, if we will go back to anatomy and even clinical chemistry, hindi natin diretsong sinasabi that the liver is the excretory organ. We are always saying that the liver has an excretion function. Kasi po, yung ine-excrete ng liver ay hindi po dumidiretso sa urine unless it is increased. Remember that. Unlike the kidneys, ay talagang excretory organ yon. Kasi anong sabi ng kidneys? Anything not important and waste, you don't have any other choice. You will all be excreted out and you'll be part of the urine sample. Unlike the liver, yung ine-excrete niya, hindi po dumidiretso ng liver. It will be excreted out of the liver and usually go to the intestine. Take note. So going back, what is the marker for excretion function? Well, that is none other than B2. So those who answered B2, marami sila. Take note. That is the reason why ngayon marereflect mo na, kaya pala mo third year kami, nung may laboratory kami, may lab conference kami, may virtual laboratory activity kami, parating din sinasabi sa amin ng aming mga laboratory professors, you have to report separately the bilirubin 1 or unconjugated bilirubin from bilirubin 2 or the conjugated bilirubin. Meron kang deduction sa iyong laboratory activity if you will not report separately the B1 from B2. Why? Because remember that B1 is the marker for conjugation function of the liver and B2 is the marker for excretion function of the liver. Huwag mo kalilimutan yan. After 120 days, wala tayong magagawa lahat. There is normal lysis of the red cells. And what is the ultimate product of the lysis of red cell? Bilirubin. And that is B1, isn't it? And that is insoluble. And albumin will bring B1 to the hepatocyte sinusoids. And then ligandin will bring it to the core of the liver so that the B1 will be conjugated. Ay, kaya pala ma'am, B1 is the marker for conjugation. Correct. And after conjugation, the product is definitely B2. However, tatanungin ko nga kayo guys, bilirubin has vital functions in the body. True or false? Si bilirubin ba may important functions inside the body? Kailangan ba tanong ko sa iyo yan bago tayo mag-board exam para sasabihin mo, kaya pala yung professors namin ng college, paulit-ulit ni lecture itong bilirubin na to. I will ask the children, bilirubin has vital functions in the body. True or false? Iisipin mo yan. Meron ka bang naaalalang in-enumerate ng professor mo sa clinical chemistry? These are the functions of bilirubin. Kaya ang tanong ko sa iyo, meron bilirubin has vital functions in the body? True or false? What is the answer? Definitely false. False. Ma'am, wala pong functions ang bilirubin sa katawan ng tao. Wala. Because bilirubin are what? Wastes. B1 is a product of catabolism of the red cell. So therefore, it is a waste. Ay, oo nga. So how do we eliminate B1? Ma'am, sabi mo kanina, since birth, there is normal lysis of red cells after 120 days. Naman. And what is the product of the normal lysis of red cells? B1. Ay, oo nga. Next question. Children, kung since birth, meron na pala tayong B1 sa blood, bakit yung bilirubin 1 natin? Ang konti lang sa plasma concentration, 0.2 to 0.8. If since birth, our red cell is, the red cells are truly with normalizes since birth, bakit hindi tayo naging jaundice? Bakit hindi naman naninilaw yung skin natin? What is the answer? Because there is an organ in the body responsible for eliminating B1. Through what process? Conjugation. So how do we reduce the concentration of B1 in plasma? How do we reduce it? How do we eliminate it? What is the process, children? Conjugation. And what is the organ responsible for eliminating and for reducing B1? Because that is a product of catabolism. What is the answer, children? Liver. That's why it is a chief metabolic organ, either anabolism or catabolism. Amen? Nagkakaintindihan ba tayo, mga kapatid, sa paniniwala? I hope you are enjoying that part. Take note, ha? So, anong isipin mo, Mom? Mom, you mean conjugation is a way of eliminating products of catabolism? Ay, matagal na po, children. Kaya tinawag natin si liver na metabolic organ. Take note. So therefore, ay, kaya pala Ma'am tayo hindi nagkakaroon ng jaundice. We should say thank you to liver. Of course. And not only liver, you include albumin. Take note. So therefore, kaya pala 0.2 to 0.8 lang. Tama. And what is the product of conjugation? Bilirubin 2. So, Ma'am, kaya pala naalala ko, wala akong natatanda ang in-enumerate na these are the functions of B1. Ay, talaga wala siyang function because that is a waste product. Question, si B2 ba may function? Naku, nag-iisip ka ng malalim. Alam mo kung face-to-face ito, alam ko may expression nyo. Tumitingin ka sa kaliwa, sa kanan. Iniisip mo, meron bang in-enumerate si professor ko na functions of B2? What is the answer? Wala. Walang function ng B2 because that is a product of what? Catabolism. So it's like having double catabolic products. Kaya ang tanong, children, ano sabi ni liver kay B2? Liver, sabi pa rin niya, B2, okay, you are now conjugated, but let me inform you, sabi ni liver kay B2, you are actually non-essential. So therefore, you are non-essential. You have no space in this organ. Sabi ni B2 kay liver, liver, isn't it you are a storage organ? Ano sabi ni liver? However, sabi ni liver, I will only store future essential substances. You are non-essential, therefore, you have to be excreted out. So which is the marker for excretion? B2. So, pag elevated ang B1, failure to conjugate. It should be failure to conjugate. E pag elevated ang B2, failure to excrete, it should be failure to excrete. However, children, remember this in the licensure exam. You would only say it is liver dysfunction if both B1 and B2 increased at the same time and space. Elevated B1 and elevated B2 at the same time, that is the only time you would say that is liver dysfunction. B1 is elevated but not B2. Oh, that is not liver dysfunction. B2 is elevated but not B1. That is not completely liver dysfunction. You would only say it is liver dysfunction, both elevated. That's the reason why you have to report separately the B1 from B2 because these are two different, separate markers. Bakit si B2 zero sa blood? Hindi po sa blood na form si B2, kaya zero siya. That is actually produced in the liver. True or false? B2 is also considered as a synthetic marker. True or false? B2 may be considered also as a synthetic marker. Halimbawa, tinanong ko sa exam, which of the following is a synthetic function test of the liver? Walang albumin, walang total protein, walang globulin, walang AG ratio. Pero meron ko nakitang B2, meron ko nakitang B1. Sino sa tingin mo ang tamang pwede mong isagot na synthetic marker? Is it B1 or is it B2? What is your answer? Kasi kung ako ang Board of Examiner, pwede kong itanong yan. That is truly an analytical question. Excellent. The answer is, of course, B2. Why? Because that is stored. It should be out of the liver kasi wala siyang function. Take note, that's why it is 0. Hindi po yan galing sa liver. Then, and sorry, hindi siya na-produce sa blood talaga. Total bilirubin, you put them together. And what is the conversion factor to make it micromole per liter? Times 17.1. That is times 17.1. Delta bilirubin, this is not a normally produced bilirubin. Remember, this is formed during prolonged increase of B2, which is seen in obstructive jaundice. Take note. And ang tanong, ma'am, do we have a separate reagent that measures delta bilirubin if in case it is elevated in plasma? Wala po. So what is the reagent that measures delta bilirubin? The reagent for B2. Next, anong iisipin mo? Ma'am, are you telling us that in obstructive jaundice, also known as post-hepatic jaundice, B2 is increased? It is always increased. However, sigurado baka may yung mga ibang students dito, magmamigrate kayo sa Doctor of Medicine. Nakita mo, binigyan ka ng result form ng medical technologies. Sabi mo, ang taas-taas naman ng B2. Grabe naman ito, markedly increase. O, alam mo na, normal naman yung B1. Parang wala namang problema sa B1. Pero yung B2 niya, napakataas. So, anong iisipin mo dyan? Ma'am, ibig mo sabihin, part of the B2 measured is actually delta bilirubin. Correct. Because the B2 reagent measures the delta bilirubin. And remember, delta bilirubin came from actually what? B2. If B2 is increased in plasma persistently and prolonged, that aggregated B2 will actually create what? Delta bilirubin. What else? And jaundice is hyperbilirubinemia. Jaundice, do not forget, is yellowish discoloration of the skin, of the sclera, and the mucous membrane. And this is very evident if the total bilirubin concentration exceeds 2 milligram. Guys, exceeds ha. Ang normal bilirubin concentration natin, 1.0. If it is more than 2.0, that is jaundice. And there are types of jaundice or types of hyperbilirubinemia. Let's start with yung mga may handbook, yung mga may review book ng clinical chemistry. Pareho lang yung nakalagay dito sa table at dyan sa book mo. No? Sinamarize ko lang para magkaroon ka ng other perspective. Okay? The rest, you can copy these children. Okay? Prehepatic jaundice, ay syempre, ano ba yung prehepatic jaundice? Also known as hemolytic jaundice, because the cause of prehepatic jaundice is the premature lysis of the red cells. The usual cause is the premature lysis of the red cells. And what are the examples of cases under prehepatic jaundice wherein there is premature lysis of the red cells? Wala pa 120 days, analyze na. Ay, number 1, malaria. Isn't it guys that the Plasmodium species, saan ba tumitira ang Plasmodium species? Red blood cells. That's why Plasmodium species are considered, malarial parasites are considered RBC inclusions. And they can really cause jaundice. Nung ako'y nasa practice guys, clinical practice, nakakita na ako niya malarial patient. No? Talagang mataas ang kanyang bilirubin concentration. Ang tanong, which bilirubin? Another case under prehepatic jaundice is what? Hemolytic jaundice. That is another case of prehepatic jaundice, hemolytic jaundice. Oops, kuhanan natin ng blood, yung may hemolytic or prehepatic jaundice. What is indirect bilirubin? Ay, syempre increase. Because because B1 is a direct product of the lysis of red cells. What is direct bilirubin? Most of the time, normal. What is the answer for the urobilinogen? Well, urobilinogen is also known as deconjugated bilirubin. Again, it is also known as deconjugated bilirubin. Ma, bakit siya naging deconjugated? First, unconjugated bilirubin is the bilirubin formed after lysis of red cells. Then this B1 or unconjugated will be transported to the liver. Then that will be converted to B2 or the conjugated bilirubin. Sabi ko nga sa'yo, si liver, ayaw niya sa mga non-essentials. So, ano sabi ni liver kay B2? Oh, you should be excreted out because this liver is only for important analytes. You cannot be stored here. So, it was excreted out through the bile fluid. Bile fluid contains B2, cholesterol, and bile salts. Question, ma'am, saan po dadalhin si conjugated bilirubin? Saan siya dadalhin ni bile fluid? It will be transported down to the intestine, and the intestine is the site of deconjugation. Together with, take note, the normal flora in the small intestine, the bacteria. And what happened? This urobilinogen, guys, is a product of the deconjugation of B2. And what is the usual sample for the measurement of urobilinogen? Usually, it is urine sample. Pansinin mo guys, yung urine strip natin, meron bang urobilinogen pad? Yung bang ating urine strip may urobilinogen pad? What is the answer? There is. Because that is for urine urobilinogen test. And what is the answer? Normal. How about the urine bilirubin test for prehepatic jaundice? Mom, you mean the urine strip has a urobilinogen pad and a separate urine bilirubin pad? Ay, magkaiba yun. What is the result for urine bilirubin test? Negative. Why? B1 is increased, but remember, it is water insoluble. So it is undetectable in the urine sample. Undetectable yan, guys. That's why it is negative. How about the post-hepatic jaundice, also known as obstructive jaundice? What is the cause of the obstructive jaundice? Actually, this is obstruction in the biliary tract. Take note. Obstruction either caused by cholelithiasis or the gallstones, pwede rin pong parasites like the Ascaris lumbricoides. So therefore, if there is obstruction along the biliary tract, what happens, children? Kuhanan natin ng blood. Yung merong obstructive jaundice or, take note, formation of gallstones or presence of parasites causing obstruction or even yung tinatawag natin pancreatic tumor. Bilateral pancreatic tumor. Ang tanong, may pancreatic tumor bilateral, may formation of gallstones, meron ka pang parasitic obstruction. What is the result of the bilirubin assay? Ay, syempre normal ang indirect bilirubin. However, the direct bilirubin is definitely increased. Why? Because the direct bilirubin did not reach totally the intestine. Ma'am, hindi siya nakaabot sa intestine, meaning failure to deconjugate. Correct. Because of the obstruction along the biliary tract. So what happened, guys, to your urobilinogen? That is definitely decreased because of failure to deconjugate. Konti lang ang direct bilirubin na nakarating sa intestine. That's why it is decreased urobilinogen. And what happened to urine bilirubin? Oh, B2 is increased. And B2 is water soluble. Ano sabi ni kidneys? Anything too much, it has to be excreted out. That's why it is positive urine bilirubin test. What else? There is one enzyme which is considered the most important marker for post-hepatic jaundice. Children, what is the number one enzyme marker? Enzyme marker for biliary obstruction or obstructive jaundice or post-hepatic jaundice. Excellent. The four ladies and Fiona Basilio and Ray Mark Magleo and Kristen Brinas. What is that enzyme? That is none other than alkaline phosphatase. Do not forget that is alkaline phosphatase. That is the most important and the number one marker in post-hepatic jaundice. Hepatic jaundice means what? That is already damaged within the liver. That is hepatocyte dysfunction. What are the examples of cases under hepatic jaundice? Well, cirrhosis, and what is the second? Viral hepatitis. We have cirrhosis and second, viral hepatitis. Take note, cirrhosis and viral hepatitis. Huwag kakalimutan. Excuse me. May nakain na naman akong labok. Galing ba sa aircon yun? Alikabok, whatever. Then, going back, pag may cirrhosis po, may viral hepatitis si patient, ano ang direct and indirect bilirubin? Both increase. Because this is failure to conjugate, failure to excrete. If that is already damaged within the liver, wala ka ng albumin, konti ang albumin mo, may sira ka pa sa liver, meron ka pang hepatic core destruction, that is already failure to conjugate and failure to excrete. If let's say small amount of unconjugated bilirubin was conjugated, what happened? The liver failed to produce bile fluid. And bile fluid is the only transport fluid. So this direct bilirubin can reach the intestine or the site of deconjugation. Children, bile fluid lang po ang magdadala kay direct bilirubin. May damage yung liver. So it is both increase. What happened to urobilinogen? Only small amount was produced. So it is decreased, children. And what is the result of the urine bilirubin test? Since B2 is positive and B2 is increased, then that will be excreted out. Sabi nga ng kidneys, di ba? Not essential in my blood, out of the body. That's why the cause of positive urine bilirubin is the polar soluble B2. Take note of that. What else? And tatandaan mo itong summary na to, children. In short, you don't say straight that is hepatic disorder. You don't say straight that is hepatic disease. Why? Because we have to differentiate first the results of your bilirubin. That's why we have to report it separately. If the only increased bilirubin is B1 or unconjugated, that is prehepatic. If it is only B2, that is posthepatic. If it is both, that is the true hepatic jaundice. Do not forget that. I will tell you guys, when I took my ASCPI exam, maniwala kayo sa hindi, there were, I think, 2 to 3 questions about these results. In fairness. Kaya pati sa ASCPI, parati ko sinasabi ang summary na yan. Derangements of bilirubin metabolism. Ibig sabihin ng derangements, it's not hemolytic jaundice, it's not obstructive jaundice, it is not hepatic jaundice. Bakit may icterus yung pasyente? Probably Gilbert syndrome. What is Gilbert syndrome? Bilirubin transport deficit. In fairness, masyadong obvious yan. Bilirubin transport deficit. Failure to transport bilirubin. Why? Because of what? Impaired cellular uptake of bilirubin. Again, impaired cellular uptake of bilirubin. Obviously, which form of bilirubin is increased in Gilbert syndrome? Because this is failure to transport. That is definitely B1 or the unconjugated or indirect bilirubin. Excellent. Ang bibilis sumagot ng mga students. Panalo na to sa board exam. Crigler-Najjar syndrome is also known as conjugation deficit. My goodness gracious. What is the enzyme for conjugation of B1? Uridine diphosphate glucuronil transferase, UDPGT. If that is absent, guys, deficiency of UDPGT is conjugation deficit syndrome or the Crigler-Najjar syndrome. Common ito sa mga newborns. So, without any iota of doubt, which form of bilirubin is increased in Crigler-Najjar syndrome? Because this is failure to conjugate. Definitely B1. Take note of that. Dubin-Johnson syndrome. Excellent. Those who answered B1. Ang bibilis. And what is Dubin-Johnson syndrome? Excretion deficit syndrome. This is actually damage to the hepatocyte membrane, resulting to incomplete excretion of bilirubin. Ay, wala namang kaduda-duda, children. Which do you think is the elevated bilirubin? In excretion deficit syndrome. What is the answer again? That is B2. Next, excellent. How about Lucey-Driscoll syndrome? Children, take note. This is conjugation inhibitor. Kriegler-Nager is conjugation deficit. Ma'am, ano pong pinagkaiba nila? Si Lucey-Driscoll syndrome, presence of UDPGT. However, the action is inhibited. So therefore, since the action of UDPGT is inhibited, what is the form of bilirubin which is increased? Hindi pa ako tapos magkwento. May sagot na si Miss Naomi Pompa. What is that? Elevated B1. Daming sumagot. Do not forget that. So, di ba, sabi ko sa'yo, kayang-kaya mo sagutin ang board exam. Diyos ko. Just remember the other name. You have an answer already. So what else, children? Mom, how do we measure bilirubin? Van den Berg reaction. Van den Berg is for bilirubin. And what is the key word principle of Van den Berg reaction? What is the key word principle? Diazotization. Guys, pag nabasa mo sa exam yung diazotization, may nanalo na. Because what is the only analyte in the sample which should be the only analyte that undergoes diazotization? Bilirubin. Diazotization of bilirubin forms azobilirubin as the end product. Evelyn and Maloy is one of the oldest methods and still useful, and it requires coupling accelerator. Ma'am, bakit may accelerator? Kasi meron tayong mabagal na bilirubin. Children, which form of bilirubin requires an accelerator? Otherwise, you don't, guys, pag wala ka accelerator, you cannot measure the total bilirubin. Because that is required to measure the total bilirubin. What is the slow reacting bilirubin? And that slow reacting bilirubin requires the methanol. That is none other than B1. Ang fast acting, B2. Ang slow acting, B1. Bakit, ma'am, slow? Insoluble bilirubin. Buffer, you don't need it. Result, pink to purple azobilirubin. That is the end product and the end color. Gendrasec and Grof is most widely used. In fact, ito matagal ko na kinukwento to Kasi hanggang ngayon, ganun pa rin siya. Candidate reference method. Ma'am, not yet reference method. Dapat reference method na to pero hanggang ngayon, nandun pa rin siya sa candidate reference method. But this is really the most specific and sensitive method. It requires caffeine sodium benzoate as accelerator to solubilize the insoluble B1. And guys, kaya ako ginawang table para matandaan mo, si Gendrasec po ang may buffer. Ma'am, bakit kailangan ng buffer si Gendrasec and Grof? Children, because JG, ang hirap banggitin, JG or Grof, Gendrasec and Grof is a pH dependent method. It is a pH-dependent method. It requires what? Alkaline environment. So to maintain the alkalinity of the solution, we will use sodium acetate as the buffer to maintain the alkalinity of the solution. Do not forget that. Huwag nating kalimutan, ma'am, what reagent provides alkalinity? Iba kasi yung maintains sa provides. Which reagent maintains the alkalinity? Buffer yon. Which reagent provides the alkalinity? In Gendrasec and Grof, that is the alkaline tartrate reagent. Result, blue or sometimes blue-green azobilirubin. Oops, bakit si Gendrasec and Grof ang most widely used? This is the preferred method, guys, in automated chemistry system. The Gendrasec and Grof is the preferred method, guys, in automated chemistry system. It is the JG. And the main reagent for both methods is the diazo reagent. What else? And how about detoxification function? Oops, there is synthesis, there is conjugation, there is excretion. How about detoxification function? Matagal na natin alam, guys, that the liver is the organ for detoxification. Take note. What are the markers that will assess the function of the liver to detoxify? Siyempre, enzymes. The ALT and the AST. Remember, guys, that there are markers for detoxification function of the liver. In fact, the AST and ALT markers are used to assess the extent of liver damage, especially when the liver lost the capacity to detoxify. In short, the ALT and AST are indicators of cellular injuries. Bakit ganun, guys? Bakit silang indicators of cellular injuries? Well, because enzymes are intracellular in nature. Enzymes are intracellular in nature. Do not forget that. So therefore, if we would like to really determine, guys, if the liver is with significant destruction or significant damage, we have to check the release of enzymes. Sabi nga ni Mr. Richmond Luis Estolas, we have to check the release of liver enzymes because enzymes are intracellular in nature. Remember, ano sabi ng anatomy professor? Every organ is made up of tissues and every tissue is made up of cells. So what is the basic functional unit of every human species? The cell. Nasaan yung enzymes? Nandoon sa cells. That's the reason why enzymes are considered very important organ markers. Take note of that. Second marker for detoxification function. Guys, sinabi ko second ha. This is just number 2 ha. Basahin natin maigi ang question sa exam. What is the most important marker for detoxification? Enzymes. Kasi pag sinabi mong loss of detoxification, nasira yung cellular property ng liver. Okay? What is the second marker for detoxification? Ammonia. Ay, talagang second lang yan because this is not part of the routine liver function test. This is just a what? Supplemental marker. Oops, this is NPN. Ma'am, ibig mo sabihin, kahilera siya ng mga urea, creatinine, and uric acid. Truly. If urea is the most abundant NPN in plasma, this is the least NPN in terms of concentration. Pinakakonti ito. And I mentioned this under patient preparation, baka nakalimutan natin, that when you, if the request is ammonia, activity at least 8 hours before sample collection because this is normally released from skeletal muscles after exercise. Do not forget that. Next question. What is the importance of ammonia as a liver function test? Naku, hindi lang liver function test. This is a detoxification function test. This ammonia is used for diagnosis of hepatic failure, especially hepatic coma. Alam ko nang naiisip mo. Ma'am, ibig mong sabihin si ammonia, liver test, hindi siya kidney test? Yes. Ma'am, ba't nakalagay dyan NPN? Because ammonia is NPN. Kaya huwag ka malilito sa exam ha. This ammonia is NPN, but it is not a kidney test. In fact, it is considered never a kidney test. Although it is NPN, never kidney test. It is what? Under liver function test. Which function? Detoxification. Is it a primary detoxification marker? No, it is just what? Supplemental detoxification marker. And what is the purpose of this test? It measures hepatic coma. Do not forget that. So therefore, it is not useful for renal studies, but best for liver function. Children, pag sinabi natin hepatic coma, anong organ ang nakoma? When you say hepatic coma, which organ is actually impaired? Nag-iisip ka, hepatic coma? Guys, ano bang organ ang merong karapatang matulog? At nakakatulog yung organ na yan. Especially if there is a severe disorder inside the human body, that organ will automatically slip. And you cannot hold that organ from slipping. Walang pwedeng magdikta sa kanya. What is that? Which organ is actually impaired in hepatic coma? Actually, when you say hepatic coma, liver is impaired excellent. Liver is impaired. Question, if liver is impaired, which organ will be compromised? Madadamay siya. In hepatic organ, primarily liver is impaired. Take note ha, primarily liver is impaired. However, anong sabi ni doctor? Kapag si kidney ang may problem, we have to observe and monitor the heart. Pag naman si liver ang may problem, make sure to monitor the brain because hepatic coma means that the